tight end. So let's jump into tight end. Obviously, they've got four. We're talking about four tight ends, so 2 and 2. So numbers wise, I would say thumbs up. I got to get my grade first. I gave tight end an A. I love the tight ends. I think it's a great. The only thing that would make me go A- is I don't know that they have, but I think they could develop into the stud tight end, right? And it's tough for me because they do have Michael Mayer on the roster.
Yeah,
and comparing anybody to
Ty
Michael
B
Mayer,
said that Michael Mayer is a tight end A+. Michael Mayer is not part of this discussion.
He's not part of this conversation, right? So Michael Mayer's not in this class, and there's nobody that is Michael Mayer in this class. But again, I mean, there's not many Michael Mayers out there, period. So that skews it in my head. And so I gave it an A because I think these four guys are good, are a good class. I think the numbers are good. I like the upside of this group. I think they complement each other very well. So my grade is an A.
Mine is too. I mean, and no, there's not a Michael Mayer, but you know who else didn't sign a Michael Mayer in this year's class? Anyone.
Anybody else?
There was no Michael Mayer in this year's class.
Right.
And that's just the reality of it. What I like about this class, Vince, is I really like that you mentioned the complementary needs, met their needs. I went A.
Yeah.
Met their needs and then some. Didn't even really need 2 and 2. You could have gone 2 1 year, 1 the next. They chose to go 2 and 2. You met your needs. You have a diverse skill set of players. I think last year's group of Mitchell Evans and Kane Barong complemented each other really well. And I'm not even factoring in that I think Mitchell showed me more than I thought he was going to show me. I did not understand the Mitchell Evans signing at all. And, he hasn't caught a pass yet, but, he showed in the spring and in this fall some athleticism and some potential that I didn't think that he had. But I'm not factoring that in. So this isn't even looking at the fact that Mitchell Evans is better than I think than I thought he was going to be. This is just looking at what they were as high school players. Love Kane Barong. He's kind of that Tommy Tremble type, right? And no, there's no Michael Mayer, but there's 3 guys that I think could develop into stars, especially, 2. I think Holden Stace and Eli Raridan have special talent. They're just raw and need some work. I think Kane Barong, I graded him and Eli Raridan out as top 100 players. You don't get top 100 tight ends very often. You don't normally have a bunch of those. And so you had 2 of those. Holden Stace is not a top 100 tight end simply because he's so raw. But talent-wise, Holden Stace has excellent skill set. To me, he's a better version of Durham Smythe coming out of high school. Like similar body type, similar game, similar athleticism. I'd say Holden's a little thicker and Holden's a little bit more explosive athletically than Durham was, but very similar players. Durham Smythe ended up being a pretty good football player. And if Durham Smythe would have played in this current era of tight ends, because he only had 1 year under Chip Long, he had some pretty good success that year, but they didn't throw it a ton that year, if you remember, because his only year with the new system was with Brandon Wimbush, a quarterback.
Right.
And so he didn't get a chance to really benefit from that. Durham Smythe would have put up really good numbers if he would have been able to play in this offense longer with an Ian Book or with a Jack Cohn. Like somebody's just going to throw the ball more and from that standpoint. But I love Holden Stace coming out. And when Holden Stace is arguably your second or third tight end in a 2-year class, you're loaded.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people, as we saw from his offer list, and teams trying to flip him and things like that, which he was not having any of it. He was locked into Notre Dame from the moment he committed. He's a really good football player. So I love this group. I think its length is great. Athleticism is great. Depth is great. You've got some guys that can block, potential block. Mitchell Evans is going to have to get a lot bigger and stronger, but he battles as a blocker. He was basically like a tall quarterback out there playing tight end this year. Because guess what? That's what he played in high school, quarterback. And he wasn't like Joe Alt where he had this massive expansion of size from his senior year to freshman year. He was still pretty skinny this year, but he battled. Kane Barong was a really good blocker in high school. Holden Stace has the potential to be a really good blocker in high school. So there's nothing missing from this group. I mean,
exactly
nothing missing from this group. And the nice thing is none of them have to be thrust into it. So they're all going to get time to develop.
Right.
So
because somebody made a point that Michael Mayer is going to be gone after next year and they need to develop somebody. Okay. They got plenty of options.
Well, because think about it. When Michael Mayer leaves after this year, Kane Barong and Mitchell Evans will be going into their junior seasons.
Right, exactly.
Eli Raridan and Holden States will be going into their sophomore seasons. you already have a good tight end committed next year in Cooper Flanagan.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get another. They'll be fine.
Yes,
Right?
they'll be fine.
And
Right.
I really like this group.
Me
Really
too.
like this group. And
Yeah,
and
me
one of my
too.
criticisms early was, is John McNulty really going after the top players? Well, then senior year comes and you're like, okay, I'm going to start giving John McNulty the benefit of the doubt. Because Eli Raridon saw his game just really jump. Holden saw his game really jump. And you're like, okay, he's seeing the potential, the upside, as opposed to focusing on who's the top guy right this second.
Right.
You know, there's other guys that were definitely ranked higher, but by the time they're all done, I don't know if there's a whole lot of tight ends better than Eli Raridon. There's not a whole lot of tight ends with a higher upside than Holden State. So it's like, okay, Coach McNulty, my bad. You got this. You got this. All right, I'm my bad. But man, I love this 2-year group of tight ends.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I mean, I gave it an A. So I mean,
and most
I'm
teams may not care about that. You know, who cares if you got great tight ends? Well, at Notre Dame, that matters a lot.
100% matters.
At other systems, like at Oklahoma, it doesn't matter if they get great tight ends. They'll use them if they have them. If they don't, no big deal. You know, well, I guess it'd be USC now, but the way it was at Oklahoma, tight end, you know, if Clemson has great tight ends,
whatever.
They don't really use them a ton, right? At Notre Dame, you need to have great tight ends, and Notre Dame has signed just 2 excellent classes.